Hello everyone! As always, I hope you all are doing well. Before we begin with the stories, I want to let you know that there are brief mentions of self-exit in today's video. If you're currently struggling or in a dark place, maybe skip this one. As a listener, your well-being is important to me, so I want to make sure that you are taking care of yourself first. Now, without further ado, let's get into the stories. My cousin Thai Mai sponsored my family to immigrate to the United States from Thailand. When we arrived in America, my husband, kids, and I lived with Thai Mai and her family for a good chunk of time. We finally moved out once my husband and I found work and were able to be stable on our own. On one ordinary day, I was home alone doing the usual housework while all the kids were at school and my husband was at work. I opened the main door but left the screen door closed to let the natural sunlight through. As I was in the kitchen chopping pumpkin slices to boil for lunch, I suddenly sensed someone at the door. I looked up, and there he stood. A very tall man. His face was above the doorway outside and out of my sight. All I could see was his long body standing there. He spoke in a low and hollow voice, echoing through the doorway. I froze in place and my body was numb. Who was this man? Why was he here asking me for this? My voice trembling, I asked, When I woke up, the room was cold. I turned to my husband and nudged him to wake up. Taking my husband's advice, I stayed quiet. I tried to convince myself that it was just a dream, that it meant nothing. On this particular day, I went to the farm. As I was gardening, the air grew heavy, pressing down on me. I suddenly felt the same presence, but this time it was standing beside me. I turned my body the opposite way of where I was feeling this presence, and I kept gardening. Then, a whisper, so close that it brushed my right ear. After saying that, I felt the weight on my chest ease up, and the presence faded. I knew I had to say something, so I went to see Thai Mai and her husband. I told them about the dream, about their son's visit at the farm.
Tao mẹ tao mẹ là hai tia nè yuan nhẹ một con nè lúc đó không nói giờ nè họ ta xin năng đi chả na
tới giờ nên tệ tàu tụi nhã thả rốn trâu nên tệ tàu chè nếu chỉ sẽ dễ cháy nếu chỉ linh cả một trò hậu chế đứng cổ suy chè
On that very night, they sent him the joss money, burning it under the moonlight. There was one night where I went to sleep over at my grandma's house so we could watch Thai dramas together. We were in the living room, glued to the TV, until my grandma's friend called and they started talking. Whenever my grandma talks on the phone, she likes having her phone on speaker. I could hear their whole conversation.
nên là bao nhiêu của mà phải thiệt cái đủ chọc lâu liền
My grandma was talking smack and gossiping about her old neighbor, Bonyeho, who happened to be the relative of that friend that she was talking to.
thôi ý bây nhiêu cái rồi cho chế rồi đi lâu lúc chế nhóc cái ý gì mong cho sát to cũng một thọ cái nữa là movie cứ chia là sai nữ yên sắm mà chỉ cả lên ta họ
tuần tới chè mẹ chỉ riêng chỉ cần là mẹ cho bự rong đó mà bé cho họ nơi trên những kia lo nên cho đi đồ bé theo
nó hay ô trâu cụ xa mua ta lên ta họ này cho tao nó là nó hay tiền nó chỉ cả cú cho mình nhiều cái trông chả cũng cả mù chè cũng mua bầu lợ
này rong tới nơi theo chỉ mới thu phong họ thấy bông nửa ly có sai thầu lông mẹ bé lì của nơi xiên đó là thầu lông thâu luôn là uốn nướng tình thá để món to tiệt nên tôi là xí khó xí chè trong tôi rượu sợ đời là một chè là đủ luôn
bây giờ là tức là nó rồi hay thế mà tức nó rồi tiền nó xẻ rồi nó đã xẻ cụ thá này một số thế à 我那鸟嘛有就我碰我一周路的，吵叫宝宝，跳巴士嘛，他里莫能也有啊。先些头有多的，去莫能多晒有点吧。
They continued talking for hours until midnight slowly approached.
这谈领导，莫去马些湖呢。
我了点白哦。
拜。dạ nhiều khó khăn kia sẽ cho xí mong tôi hút tuổi thế này hello mẹ cho tao thế này một khứ kia sẽ
She gets up to go use the bathroom, leaving her cell phone on the sofa where she was sitting. While she was in the bathroom, her phone rings.
Bé mày ơi, bà bé của lúc phòng xeยังtự ở. Có hai trâu lợi tiề của chẳng xí hôm nay, ít bữa của mày lấy khu trọ cá nó.
Without paying much attention, I flipped her phone open and answered.
Hello?
Whoever was on the other line did not speak. I could only hear the loud breathing.
Hello? Who is it? Có giống được.
Có bố nè.
Có bố chính nhá hôn nam. Có giống được. Đi bữa có bố tờ lò của mà hay nữ hô cầu.
Cô ya bố nhá hôn nam. Cả số tông một cũng chưa có bố thả đó lò.
Đi bữa có bố mà hô cầu.
Cả số tông một cũng chưa có bố thả đó ha.
I snapped the phone shut and threw it on the sofa, all the while jumping and screaming my way to my grandma.
Ba. Cô tay nó phòng tôi hô tòn đâu nữa tên nó bố nhá hô. Miệng tôi có thả nó.
My grandma thought I was messing with her.
À dạ, chào tự trà luôn.
My grandma came out of the bathroom and grabbed the phone. She looked at the calling number.
Dạ, tôi nắm bấu nó dữ luôn á.
She proceeded to answer the call.
Hello, lưng tiêu à.
Kami tetua kung dia.
Dạ, có tôi là có hú tôi tháp lâu lên chè có trích thế nè. Chả bấy hú bỏ liêu lâu cho có chỉ tao kì kia kia hả? Mình trên mua.
This incident took place during that time where everyone suddenly started getting mysterious calls from a number that was just all zeros. Whether that whole thing was a scam or just spoofing, it's hard for me to believe that this call was fake. These phone calls created quite a buzz within the Hmong community. Everyone talked about it at one point, and many claimed that they were calls from ghosts. When I was young, we lived in a neighborhood where a few blocks down from our house, there was a Hmong corner store. My mom and I always went there for groceries and also to exchange my little sister's WIC vouchers. The store was run by a Hmong couple, probably in their late 30s, maybe early 40s. The husband was always behind the counter chatting with customers while the wife rang up people. Every time we walked in, they greeted us from their spot at the register. Even though it wasn't a big store, I always found it creepy. The lighting was uneven. Some areas were bright, while others felt dim. The store usually only had 1 to 2 customers, sometimes 3 at a time, so it was normal for it to be super quiet. One day, after I got home from school, my mom took me there with her.
Ồ, tôi cha nhục hơi ở bấm một tờ xuê ta là chỉ xí cơ rồi na.
The door was locked and the inside was dark. We spotted a written sign that was posted on the inside of the door.
Tô, để nên sign đó là show hay lấy cha.
It read, "Due to unforeseen circumstances, we are temporarily closed. We apologize for any inconvenience and appreciate your understanding."
They sign hai tia lu tao là cơ lo.
Ồ, bây giờ mà, xong tông bọn đó nên hai linh tờ xin ta.
Yeah, I think so.
Ê, là chỉ sau trong đó hai tia ở cha là họ cơ nó lọ.
No.
Và giờ linh nó cha nè.
We continued driving by the store for the next several days, but the store remained closed.
Chê, là một vacation lọ yo.
Eventually, the open sign was lit, and we saw customers walking in and out of the store again. One late afternoon, my mom and I went again. As we entered, the store owners, both husband and wife, greeted us from the register.
Hi, nói chung à.
Nấy tôi là.
Tôi chà nè, có một tờ là cần tế luôn à. Bây giờ tao theo một yếu khủng nó có tờ liệu.
Ồ, thật gì à. Thì cô chẳng mà hai lửa năm tao ấy của mình busy. Cô thấy mà tao là cơ tọ bên nó nọ.
Là cho ta sửa cả chị và cả tế hơi lửa thì thuộc tư là bên mà tôi thông đạo mà. Ê, có bốn mua điện nó mỏ nè.
Nó cơ mà, cái yếu điểm bông lâu, cái yếu điểm ya đồng món à.
Cô yếu điện bông sửa.
Có muốn nó tao là bố tao ấy, nhớ tao thình tao đám đồ sáng luôn tao nè.
My mom started making her way down the aisle to the back of the store, and I trailed behind her with a shopping basket. I hated that part of the store. That's where they kept the dishes, joss paper, and incense. It was the darkest part of the store and also near where the basement door was located. Yes, this store had a basement. Most of the time, the door was closed, but other times it's been left slightly open. On the times when it was open, I have looked down, and all I could see were the wooden stairs leading into the darkness and the clutter of old storage shelves.
Nè tu cả lúc tao rồi bên này cũng khờ ít bỏ điện nông cho bên nó mà bị chơi xe. Cho điện nó mà bị chơi cho nên mua xe tư ta liệu mua chữ trả lo mua plo ta liền cho nên cho nó điện theo rồi cha.
As we continued browsing that aisle, down at the end of it was the basement door. I saw that it was closed, which made me feel a little at ease. We looked through that whole aisle and then turned into the adjacent aisle, getting a little further from the basement door. My mom was looking at stuff and I stood by her absent-mindedly and just looked around. My eyes landed on the round mirror that was mounted to the ceiling in the back corner of the store. It was one of those security mirrors that store owners install to monitor blind spots throughout the store. As I glanced into the mirror, my heart skipped a beat. The husband store owner got out of his seat at the register. To my horror, he lowered himself onto all fours and began to crawl down the aisle that we were just in before. He was acting really creepy, but the wife wasn't paying any attention to it. I tugged on my mom's shirt, trying to get her attention.
Nè.
She was too busy scanning through the shelves and didn't even bother looking at me. The fear was rising in my chest. I pulled on her shirt a bit harder this time.
Mommy.
She pushed my hand off and scoffed in irritation.
Có cho ô lý câu của chúng chi ta làm à? Nhớ tiêu.
My heart was pounding at this point. I glanced back at the mirror and it instantly made me feel sick. He was still in the crawling position, but he had stopped making any movements. His head was tilted upwards, looking at me through the mirror. Even with the warped reflection of the mirror, I could see the corners of his mouth curl into a big smile. He knew I saw him, and he was intentionally smiling back. I looked away from the mirror immediately to avoid eye contact with him. My eyes were fixed toward the end of the aisle, anticipating his next move. I was ready to grab my mom and run out of there if he appeared around the corner and tried doing anything crazy. My mom threw a pack of green soap bars into the basket, making me jump.
Lỡ một thì không cho chưa ước chế một sát đó chế à?
I looked up at the mirror again, and the guy was nowhere to be seen. At the register, there was only the wife, which made me feel uneasy. I kept my eyes toward the back of the store, thinking he was probably hiding somewhere over there.
Tàn thôi yo bé cho chi pia gì kiểu xa sinh. Có thể nhìn chỗ là nhiều món nọ.
Cụ thể như món nọ.
As the wife finished bagging the items we purchased, a sudden creak came from the basement door. I quickly glanced at my mom and the wife. My mom was occupied with fitting her card back into her wallet, but the female store owner was also looking in the direction of the basement door. Her eyes looked concerned with fear. I followed her gaze to the basement door. From where I was at, I saw that the top quarter of the door was slowly creaking open.
Nè, tu, cả không ở mua.
But before I could grab the bags on the counter, the wife interjected. Her face was masked with a forced smile.
Ơ nếu mình nên khai chụp tàu ấy thì cũng mặc bán nên khai một tròn đồ chế à?
I was more than capable of carrying the bags on my own. But since she was so eager to help, the three of us walked to the car together.
Một nấy nữa.
After that, I stopped going with my mom, finding any excuse to stay away from that store. Eventually, the store suddenly had new owners. My mom still continued to shop there for a little while, but there was a reason why she stopped going. On her final visit to that store, she overheard a customer whispering to the new owners.
Đấy là vừa tàu lúc này ta là này nhà chơi ok thiệt bỏ.
Cô ok theo
Nhà này chỉ bỏ chỉ thiệt cả.
ấy bỏ chi mà
Đâu chứ khen này chỉ bỏ bỏ.
ấy bỏ chi mà có cho hai lý có bóng xí họ
Cô là hay khen này xưa. Ta chỉ ở nè chủ ta lòng tay này à. Cậu ngô một tính mình ta rồi. Cậu xích cha chỉ xí hổ nè chỉ cái li mù. Đại cha đã đồ hộp á đầu hộp nè. Thằng đó lâu thêm mua là lú ta là nó cờ tàu in tù nè.
The store closed down soon after. Every once in a while, I still drive past that area, and the building seemed to have been turned into some sort of office. I wonder if those people experience anything there.